I love these speaker panels. I think that if you've been here before for them, a lot of you have said that was just a really great time to hear people that you may consider mentors opening up about struggles. And so while each person up here has their own expertise, and I've picked people that are drastically in different areas of our space, right? My goal is that you will get to hear somebody that says one thing that just really hits, something that you need to hear, right? So I've got some questions ready to go for each of these people, and then at the end, I will pass the mic to probably two of you for questions to ask whatever you would like. So nothing is off limits. That's really it. So
Nothing.
You guys ready to party?
Yes.
Okay, so whoever wants to answer this first can totally take it away. What is one thing, starting off with business, okay? What is one thing that you really sucked at, that you had to get good at in order to get to the next level, that you just couldn't skip and maybe wanted to?
I'll go. Yeah. I like that you use the word suck. It's perfect. Standing in front of a camera and recording content, I think when you do it for the first time, it's kind of a weird deal. There's no eyes looking back at you. At least it was for me. And I knew that I wanted to create more content. This is when I sold the CrossFit gym in 2018, and I wanted to get out there in the world, and, create these different channels. It's got the tripod, so I sucked at first, and I kept thinking about how I sound, what I look like, messing up, and the word suck. I have a formula with that word, and that formula is suck, success. Right? So I started to embrace the suck and just keep doing it. And the frequency created the genius, right? Now you put a camera in front of me, I'm very natural at it. But I knew I had to do that in order to spread the message and reach people. But I sucked at first. Go ahead.
Well, let me challenge you.
Yes.
Because we know that in here. We know to keep doing something when we suck at it. But how, because I'm guessing, and I was actually going to ask you something about speaking, about public speaking. So I'll save that.
Okay.
Because I know that about you. But how were you able to keep doing it? And how long? What time frame are we talking about? Years? When did you see actual results from that? Because that context is helpful.
Yes. So 2018 is when I started to get really intentional with the online content. I was doing Facebook Lives almost daily, and there's 2 people on there, 1 person on there, 0 people on there. And I'm still talking to the camera as if there were like thousands of people on there. And I think if you don't show up the same way, you don't really deserve to win, whether there's 1 person or 1,000 people on there. So I just imagine there's 1,000 people there. And if I don't show up that way, I don't deserve to be there. And it took me 2 years of being really consistent and getting content out there to see some really strong traction. But I was super consistent. I didn't stop. I just embraced it and I just kept going.
I mean, that's a great answer, yeah. Someone else from over here, share something.
If you want to go, you can. Otherwise, okay. I hated social media. Hated social media. That was like my big thing that I sucked at because I didn't want to do it. I enjoyed consuming, but I didn't enjoy actually putting anything out. And it was mainly because I didn't think I had anything special that anyone would care about. Right? I would place my feelings on a post based on the reactions from other people. And like in the beginning, no one reacted to my shit. And it's like, well, because no one knows who you are. So like I really disliked social media, and I had a realization a couple of years back, and it was actually really good. I was like, I actually don't care what anyone feels like or enjoys or hates about me. Like, I'm going to post what I want. I'm going to say what I want. And if you don't like it, like, there's an unfollow button, there's an unfriend button. Like, you can leave. It's cool. But I still actually don't really like social media, but I know it's a necessary part of what I do. So, like, I sucked at social media because I don't really like being out there. Truth be told, if, like, no one knew who I was, that would be better. But, like, I know in business, like, especially today's world, like, it's really important. So I spend a lot of my time on it just because it makes me money.
I'm trying to think. I guess one thing that I feel, I definitely don't suck at it now, but I did, would be taking the beating for the mistakes of my team. As I grew, my company expanded. Naturally, people make mistakes, and being the leader of the company or the face of the company, I have to accept that, nope, these are my mistakes. I did this, not, so-and-so on my team, even though they did. And I'm like, okay, this is the sword I have to fall on. And also, managing that with the pressures of the clients and what we deal with as a company has, I think I've gotten very good at it, and I always have an answer. But I didn't, because normally growing up and everything that I wanted about the internet was, my dream wasn't to have a big team. It was to just create freedom for myself. Now, I love my core team, and I say core team because I have VAs in the Philippines as well. And I hate to say it, they're not real to me because I don't see them in person every day. But my core team, it's like now I'm like, I couldn't imagine doing business without them, and I want to continue to always make sure they never have to get a job. Like, I want to employ them or contract them, per se, for tax purposes. So,
If anyone's listening,
yeah, I don't know.
contract.
I heard from a friend that the IRS is 14 years behind, so we'll just go with that. But yeah, that process, as I've grown as a business owner, CEO, founder, whatever, it's accepting everybody else's failures and mistakes as mine. It sucks.
It does suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, Will tells me that every day. Everything's your fault. I'm like, I know. I don't need to. Yeah, thank you. This one's for you, Dean. So, speaking on sales in particular, right? I think a lot of us struggle we create this identity on a sales call that's not really us. And we struggle to just be us. And then, we've got coaches telling us to follow the script and do this discovery process. And then we're like, but who am I, right? And then we don't close the deal, and then we doubt, and it's just a spiral that we create. So what advice do you have about just being authentic and still closing the deal?
We'll just be authentic and close the deal.
If it were that easy.
I mean, I think there's a lot of internal pressure placed on sales because we're so directly tied to the result of that sale that we see ourselves in the result, not in the process. So everyone has this false identity getting on sales calls because all they think about is the dollar sign on the back end. They don't think that I'm actually having a conversation with another human, right? The coolest part about a sales call is even though you may have a bunch of these, this person is just having one, right? One call that might change their life. And you just so happen to be the person in front of that. So if you're just focused on the result of, I might make some money on this, you give yourself the opportunity to drop the ball. So going into it, you have to truly not care about the sale. Because if you just truly care about the person, helping them find the truth, whether the truth be they need my help, they don't need my help, whatever it is, you get to break them down into having an open and honest conversation. And when you have an open and honest conversation, right, regardless if they sign or not, they're going to feel loved, they're going to feel cared about, they're going to feel respected. And even if they're not ready today, they're going to say, hey, Taeler really cared about me. And when they're ready to take action, they're not going to go anywhere else. So the big overarching, if I'm going to sum that up and use what we talked about earlier, brevity, is truly detached from the sale, attached to the human. And if you can do that, you won't have to put this false identity on sales calls and pressure yourself into needing to do this. It's I'm just hanging out with this person. There's some questions I'm going to ask for sure, but if it doesn't go that way, I'm just here to have an open and honest conversation about why she, he, whoever it is, has not hit their goal.
Thank you. So everyone on this stage, sans Taeler, is in a relationship or married. So I want to know, I'm starting with Laurin first, how do you navigate, and I know you're doing a lot in business and personal right now, but how do you navigate a relationship and still manage your business and just find, I don't want to use the word balance because that's a tangent, but how do you do it all, so to speak, and find fulfillment in both your personal life and business?
So I have been in a long distance relationship for over a year, so it's an added kind of complexity. So there's some benefits to that. When you have time on your own, you can just totally focus in on things. And then of course, when we're together, it's a lot more we're together. So as I've transitioned back to school now in the past, 6 weeks or so, adding that in has been this whole new thing. Because normally nighttime is our time to connect. And now 3 nights a week, I have classes. Right? So it's even small things like that are pretty disrupting when you already have a really tight schedule. So for us, it's about, because a lot of our time is virtual, we have to really just create that time. So it might look a little bit different than it has before, but it's hey, here's what I have going on today. When can we connect? And really also, at least for me, I don't know if anybody else struggles with this, I'm someone who always historically, I can do everything, I'm going to be super independent and I can manage all my shit, which I can, but it is nice when someone else can be there and support you. and my partner wants to support me. So he's like, hey, what can I do? How can I help? And finally, I've like gotten to the point where I'm like, you know, you've been saying this for like a year. I think you actually want to help me. And like actually allowing that in, right? And even just being open to be like, he can be like, hey, I can tell something's off today. Like, what do you need? Do you want to talk about it? And I'm like, wow, like this is so great. So really just having like that open dialogue of if you are in a space where you feel like you maybe need help and need support, to actually like ask for that and talk about that. Because while we all are people who, you know, run our own businesses and are very like self-sufficient and high achieving, a true partnership does require like give and take on both ends. So being open to actually like receiving that help and also giving it in ways that they maybe need, which could look different, you know, for you. So that's really like probably the biggest thing. And then just being mindful of like the time you have together, but also again, kind of going back to my talk, being flexible about that because it could change. And if you have a really busy week with work, it's going to be understandable that things are like a little strained. Maybe you don't have a date night that week. Maybe you only have an hour to do something smaller, right? So just kind of making the most of those times and really like being intentional with it.
Any of you guys want to share?
Sure. I guess.
This is a good one.
Yeah. My biggest thing, I'm a huge believer in business and in life of like radical transparency. Like, and more so, you know, with Kristen, she's totally my fiance, but we call each other husband and wife because I hate the government. But so with that said, I found that, you know, I've had to have a lot of conversations with her that were more, I guess, dreams at the time. Like, you know, prior to like TikTok essentially working for me and my company and making millions of dollars, like I had kind of survived. I'd made money. A lot of it was very up and down. None of it was like stable. And she has always been very stable. She works in corporate. She makes, I think this year she'll do close to $200,000 a year. So by all nature, she does not need me for anything. So now our biggest struggle is who's more important at what time, you know, and that comes with just communicating and talking about that. But when it came time to, hey, I'm going to make these big decisions that are, nobody is going to think this is smart except for me. And you probably might even think I'm dumb, but this is how I see this panning out. I've been able to paint pictures of things that didn't exist yet that eventually did exist. So I think I've made that a skill set of just communicating, be like, hey, you know, what does our life look like with this? And then this is what we got to do in between. And just kind of talking through that as far as even, you know, the granular details of like, well, where are we going to live, you know? You know, life throws you curveballs. I mean, I didn't expect a hurricane to destroy my house twice. Like, but, you know, now it's like, okay, well, where are we going to live? I guess, well, let's go to a nice apartment. Cool. Okay. What's that cost? How are we going to afford this? How are we going to do this? I mean, I think that I do that in my content and even with my employees and everybody as well. I'm the most transparent person as far as like, as a CEO or a company owner. I'm just like, you know, this is how much money the company makes. This is how much everybody costs. As you can see, we're in the red right now, so I'm not happy. Like, you know, so I kind of adopted that, and also forcefully when I am, because we travel a lot, and that is, you know, I mean, long distance relationships very similar. Like, it's brutal on a relationship when you're always leaving, and then I would come home and then she would have to travel, and we have a daughter, so, you know, I spend a lot of time with my daughter, you know, but I wasn't spending a lot of time with, you know, my wife. So it's like, being able to communicate, okay, we're doing this then, and we're sticking to this no matter what is hugely important. And also when I am home, I try to do all the shit that I know she doesn't want to do. Like, take out the trash, do it, all the stupid stuff that like, yeah, she could do it, but I'll grab it. Like, no matter what, because I'm like, well, when I'm gone, I know this sucks. So that's, I don't know if that's helpful. But.
Helpful, yeah. Can I ask you, I'm going to change gears a little bit. What is just looking 2025, looking, you know, a year ahead, what's a risk that you're taking in your business next year that kind of scares you a little bit? Something that feels uncomfortable that you're working through.
I actually have it written down because I read it every day and it scares me. Where is it? I have a goal card. I don't know if y'all have heard of like a goal card before, but that's somewhere in here. You essentially, here it is, essentially have a card. And this might be silly to some people, but it's not to me. It says, I'm so happy and grateful now that my published book, Metabolic Freedom with Hay House, is a New York Times bestseller. And that's really hard to achieve. And it scares me thinking about all the things I need to do to get there. And I'm about to hire somebody. I'm meeting with her on Sunday to help me accomplish this, but it scares the crap out of me. Because that's a very difficult, rare list to make. You have to get a lot of things right. You have to do a lot of promotion. And I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I know that I'm going to do it. And if I keep reading this, it's just going to manifest for me.
And sometimes like risks like that, that's not necessarily the most profitable choice you could have made. I mean, right?
Yes, yep. It's not.
And
This
that
is not a
adds
profitable
fear.
choice. Yeah, correct. It's going to actually, I'm going to lose money doing this. I'm going to lose
Correct.
a lot of money doing this. Well, I say lose, but I'm going to invest a lot of money doing this, yes. So that scares me and
Yeah.
excites me at the same time.
We actually just we made a big decision recently, and it panned out really well. But we committed to a big event, having never ran one and not having any traffic behind it. We threw like 100K toward this event.
Been there.
We profited on it, but we have no traffic behind it. We're just going to sell this organically. It's in Miami. We hope people show up. So we kind of just committed to this big room block. And if we didn't actually have the event, we'd probably be in the hole 150K. We weren't. It worked out really well. So we're doing the same thing next year. We're like, hey, we did it well. So let's do the exact same thing but bigger and spend more money. And so that's exactly what we're gonna do. And truth be told, I don't know how the hell I'm gonna sell 200 tickets, but we're gonna figure it out, right? Because if we don't, I mean, I'm gonna lose not a fuck ton of money, but 6 figures for sure. And that does not feel good. That's money that could go to my family, right? That's money that can go to my employees. So we consistently do this, and the reason I do it is I kind of like the phase of well, let's fuck around and find out. Let's literally just figure it out, because I will. We'll find a way. But we do that consistently, and it helps. It's put yourself in a corner and see what you're made of every time.
So good. Everyone needs to remember that was said right there.
Yes.
That's the clip.
Can we clip this for later, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can we clip this?
I can also tell you on that, all your sales are going to come 3 weeks prior to the event, and you're going to be shitting yourself the whole time, because that's what happened to me.
Next question's for you, actually. Great segue. How much money have you invested, spent without knowing the outcome at all?
Well, I have 2 stories that I feel like I should share about that. Number one would be my event, the Attention Summit. We did it last year. I just picked a number, and that number was 50 grand. And I said, I'm willing to lose 50 grand to make this event work. And you might ask, okay, well, that's not that, in the grand scheme of things, that wasn't that much money, but I'm I also want the event to be free.
Been there.
And everybody was smart people told me that I was being unintelligent for doing this. And I'm no, it's just gonna work, watch. And I did what they call a pay what you want event. And when you come to events, it's helpful to know your numbers as far as for room blocks and things of these nature. I have to book a hotel room to house what I'm guessing to be 200 people. And at the whole point of it, so I'm paying for the hotel. I'm also paying for speakers to come. The hotel's hey, how many people are gonna come? I'm I have no idea. I'm they'll show up. And then behind the scenes, me and Luis are yeah, we think they will. If not, we're just gonna have 12 people in a room, and we're gonna make a lot of videos for 3 days. But in the whole process of doing it, the event ended up being profitable before it started because more people donated. We had multiple points of technically not donations, or I don't know what to call it because my taxes are fucked up from last year, so I got to figure out how to word it. But it's they obligated this amount. And that comes with a bad hire. That's how that happened. But before the event started, we ended up breaking even on the actual event, and then it became profitable. And we ended up having 100 more people show up, so they keep bringing in seats. And it was probably one of the coolest things to have done, but at the time, it was a $50,000. I just moved to another account. I said, I'm willing to lose this money. And the second would be coaching from, he's now a friend. His name's Eddie Malouf. Last year in January, I went to his event called Agency Founders, which costs $5,000 to go. If you have an agency, it's an amazing event. But $5,000 was the most I'd ever spent for an event to go to at the time. And then I'm he's gonna fucking pitch a mastermind, and I'm gonna fucking join it. And I was and the prior context is Eddie was the person I spent the most money on a phone call ever for, which was $3,000. So I spent $3,000 for a phone call that lasted an hour. He gave me 2 calls for $3,000. I never claimed the second one because we became friends after the first one. And from that phone call, I went on to make, I think it was almost $100,000 from some of the advice that he had shared. So that obviously I went to his event for $5,000. And then he pitched his mastermind, and if you signed up at the event, it was $26,000 for the year. And I was whew, I can afford that. I'm always going to do the payment plan though. Can I get a two-pay? I did a two-pay. And I remember I don't like have to ask permission, from my wife to do things, but I was like, hey, babe, I think I'm going to do this. And if you say no, I'm probably going to maybe want to do it more. But this is a lot, and I'm just kind of letting you know that I'm about to spend this money. And now I just call Eddie my dad. So. And I'm going to go to his event this year again, and I'm going to spend the same amount of money. But I found that when I just kind of blindly do things like that, and I don't say blindly, like there was a lot of data behind that decision and why it could work or couldn't work. But every time I've done that, it's paid off times 10, from an event to investing in a person. And now Eddie, I just like to know that I can call him if I'm dealing with issues. And he always gives me a good piece of advice that will make me money. And I've been in rooms with people that have made me money, and that was the most I ever spent. So.
Nice. Question for Laurin and Ben, whoever wants to answer first. But, we're in a room full of coaches that are always wanting to just learn more. And where is that balance between learning more and just implementing?
Do you want to go first, Laurin?
Sure. I think it's so easy to fall into that trap of just like, I don't know enough, or the feeling that you don't know enough, so let me just add this other thing in here, right? That does not mean that you should stop learning new things, right? Because I think that being exposed to different things is super important, but when you are learning new things, to actually try to creatively look at this and go, how can I do this differently next time, right? How many times have we been to an event or watched a webinar or read a book, right? Where you're like, I'm gonna get so much out of this. And then you're just kind of skimming and you're picking up nothing, right? Whereas if you sometimes go back and you're like, wow, I got 5 good things out of this. It was the same fucking book, right? But it's really our mindset around it. So I'm not against people going and learning new things, but I think that we have to, if we're going to be seeking that information, to really be doing it from a lens of how can I do this differently maybe than before? How can I see this in a different light, even if you disagree with something? I think what's so useful about learning from different people is that you also learn what you don't like, which I think is valuable, and most people don't talk about that. They're always just oh, you must agree with everybody. Or fuck no. Sometimes the best things that I learn are things that I don't like. Wow, I really didn't like that. I didn't like that approach. Wasn't for me. And that's okay. And that also helps you kind of identify what you want to maybe learn more or what direction to go. But in terms of also just implementing, then yeah, there has to be a point where you say, okay, I have to jump. And I know that when we're working with people one-on-one, that can be really scary because we're I don't want to mess them up. I don't want to be the reason that, they got on the call with me and they said, my last coach was terrible, and we don't want to be that person, right? So I think that there's also this this fear, not even just imposter syndrome, but actual fear of messing someone up. So whenever I'm trying something new, I always lay it out like that. Hey, this is the first time that I'm trying this. Hey, I learned this new technique. I think it would be really good for you for these reasons. Are you open to trying this? If you're also not, that gives them the way to have that out to not do it too, which is also important. But I think that it's the way that you present that is just as important. And then they're oh, that's really cool. They learned something new and they want to try that on me. That's amazing. So then you're part of this collaborative process with them. So I think that the fear of integrating things is very real because of we don't want to do harm to people. But I think that just also explaining that to them and knowing that you're coming from that place and having good and open dialogue with them every week or every 2 weeks, however you guys are running it, I think you'll be in a good spot.
That's great. We've all heard that knowledge is power, and there's some truth to that, but it's really not information that's going to change our lives. If that was true, every librarian would be a multimillionaire. They have access to all the information. It's the application of that knowledge with coaching and accountability that's going to get you to where you want to be. So in 2016, I set a goal in March of 2016 to read 30 books in 30 days, 30 different books in 30 days. Sounds like a great idea, right? I got to 23 books in 30 days, which is still a lot, and I was paralyzed by all the conflicting information. I didn't take any action. It was just yeah, that's cool. I read 23 different books in a month, but now I'll read one book over and over and over again. And I've read books or listened to it 20, 30, 40 times, but here's what I do, and I think this is a good tip. When I learn something in a book, in order for me to not just memorize it, but actually understand it, I need to teach it right away. So I'll do an Instagram story. I'll record a live. The more I teach it, it's a selfish thing to kind of do because if I teach it, I retain it more. And my fiance, I tell her random stuff all the time. Did you know the only cells in the body that do not produce ketones or use ketones, it's the liver, and the liver actually produces it, like random shit. And she's like, why are you telling this to me? I'm like, I want to learn it more. I want to teach it to people, right? So every time I learn something, I'll teach it to somebody right away in any conversation or do a video about it. And I'll go deep into a topic. And I'm not doing 23 books in a month. I'm doing maybe one book 23 times, and I'm really going deep versus wide. I think there was a hand up here. Okay.
Sorry, I love you. Love you, Mina. I just want to make sure you have a mic when we do it. But yeah, we'll do questions at the end for sure. Remember it though, write it down. Because if you think of something, guys, write it down. Don't forget it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to shift gears once again and get a little more personal here. Because again, we've all seen you as great experts, whatever you presented on, right? But take me through a time in your business where something happened. Something traumatic. Something that could have maybe even forced you to quit your business or had you second guessing everything, right? How do you navigate the curve balls that life is constantly throwing at you? Because I think that sometimes they don't think we have any.
I'm perfect. Nothing happens.
You are.
We know.
I have a good one. We work with a lot of teams. And so Tuesday, we found out that we had bot traffic coming in through one of our teams. 40% of traffic over the past 3 months was bot traffic, and we're spending $500,000 a month on ads. So like you can imagine, we're wasting 200 and some thousand a month there. Another team, like we had someone quit who was our top producer. On my side, we just found out we had a 50K bill. This is all within like 5 hours. 50K bill due, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Same day, my house as well. Like we just found out like there was water coming in our brand new house that we were dealing with, and shit was hitting the fan every which way. And I'm like, oh God, like this sucks. But like the reality of it is like this is what we signed up for. The more you do, the more shit you deal with, right? Like who said it? Was that Biggie? More money, more problems.
That's true.
Represent, but no, but really like the more you do, the more problems you have. Like the less problems you have, it's really an indicator that like your business isn't that big, right? You're not dealing with big enough stuff to have problems yet. But it'll just continue coming. It'll get bigger. It'll get worse. It'll get harder. But the reality of it is like we're gonna wake up tomorrow. So like I'm gonna figure this out whether it takes me a day, it takes me a month. So I don't let it affect who I am or my identity or how I feel or how I react emotionally, because like it literally just is business. Like if that one client decided to fire us because of bot traffic, it's like, well, whatever, dude, like we'll find someone else. Like it's okay. But it literally just is business. This is because of business. You guys signed up for this. So I hope you all enjoy the craziness. But the reality is it just keeps coming. And like at the end of the day, like when I shut my computer and I clock out for work, like I have to be able to leave those things there and like go be Dean. Because if I don't, then I'm just like a constant chaotic like ball of anxiety.
So during that week, how were you able to still shut it off? I'm sure it was harder, but like, how did you shut it off and transition to just being dad, partner?
Well, it was in a day, just for clarity. It was all in a day, just to make it more fun. But I just had an endpoint. Did I do everything I could to solve this problem? Yes or no? Did I do everything I could to solve this problem? And if I did, it's like, well, why am I worrying? Because I can't do anything else about it. So like by the end of the day, I said, okay, have we exhausted every area on getting the bots out? Have we exhausted every area with finding a new sales rep? Have we paid this bill? Have we figured out why it's so freaking high? And like past that, it's like if I've done everything I could, like why bring it with me? You know, I have to have an endpoint to it. Otherwise, like my wife gets affected, my son gets affected because Dean and Dad aren't who they need to be. So like there has to be an endpoint, and it's just like me saying, have I done the things that need to be done to make this okay? And even if it's not solved, if I say yes, it's like, well, I just have to leave it. Like I need to move on because these aren't their problems, they're mine. I signed up for this, they didn't.
Anyone else?
I mean, I can share. Very similar to yours. Mine's in the last 48 hours.
Yeah, there we go.
So not quite as cool as one day, though. Fuck. I feel like as business owners, and as you get more successful, you find that all you do is solve problems. Like it's every day you're just a bigger. And I found that the bigger problems that happen, seemingly the more money the person is making at the time, or in this case. So obviously I shared in my slides, Hurricane Helene took my house. I found that out early Friday morning. Monday I come into my studio to do a live for a Patreon that we launched, and while I'm on the Patreon, one of our current clients canceled. He was supposed to film with us prior to the hurricane. Chances are, if he would have come because of the hurricane, he probably would have wanted to work through the next 90 days to figure out if those videos are going to do good or not. So he was a $6,000 a month client, so that was, you can do the math. Then the next day, one of my longtime friends and client canceled as well. He was a $10,000 client, $10,000 a month. He's paid me almost $250,000. His assistant fired me. I'm still pissed about this, but either way, moving forward, I'm like, okay, this is bad. This is, we'll get through this, whatever. Now it's $16,000. Then another client canceled or paused. And I was like, okay, well, now it's $22,000. Yeah, the pause. Yeah, they're never coming back. If somebody says, no, I'm going to pause services, they're not coming back. And then I texted her. I said, hey, I just want you to know I'm still coming. On the way from the airport here, from the airport to here, another client reduced their thing, which is $2,000 a month less. So in the last 48 hours, I lost $24,000 a month, which now puts the company in negative. I already know that, right? Because I do the numbers. You find you become mathematicians when you have businesses too. But the reality of that is all of those clients that canceled should have not been clients anymore. Like, the universe just fixed all my problems. It just sucks, So that, and again, clients are always going to be there if you have a good product, and we have a good product, But now it's forcing me to think, like, do I want to continue down this path, or do I want to change it a little bit? And that's kind of like, a struggle that I'm currently right now facing, but I still have 15 clients. I still have a business that generates income. It's just, right now that business isn't profitable. But I have another business, which, as you guys have kind of, I hope you've understood, personal brand is pretty lucrative. That business is profitable. So that business can fund this business until I figure it out. But either way, still, it sucks.
Yes, and you're right. Like, business is literally solving problems every day. And the more you grow, the more problems, right? So that's not just in a rap song.
But also
true. So, question, whoever wants to answer. As you are growing and things get harder, right? It's easy to compare either to someone or just where you want to be and are not yet. And if you're like me, you reach a goal and then you're like, yeah, but like I'm still not there. Like, cool, but then there, right? Because goals are always in the future and the past. They're never in the present. So how do you work through those sticking points to keep the momentum going?
There's a great book called The Gap and the Gain by Dr. Benjamin Hardy that talks all about this, because when you're in the gap, you're comparing yourself to other people, and you're not good enough. That goal you hit, yeah, but look at this person, right? You're in the gap of your life and in your business. When you're in the gain, you're not comparing yourself to other people. You're comparing yourself to the previous version of you, right? You look at the progress of what you did the last 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. You focus on those wins. You celebrate that, and then you hit new targets. You set new goals to hit those new targets, and then you just keep doing that. That's where you stay in the game, when you're not comparing yourself to other people. And look, me knowing that, I still fall into the gap from time to time, and I just remind myself, like, this is somebody else's journey. It's not my journey. Like, I'm the only person living my life. You're the only person living your life. But if you really look back at your last 12 months, do an audit, you would be freaking surprised at how many wins you've had. The person you are today is very different than the person you were maybe just 3 months ago. Like, really do an audit and celebrate that. I said it yesterday on stage, what you appreciate appreciates. Like, when you emphasize those wins, you get more wins. And you're happier because you're not looking at somebody else like, yeah, but that person hit this target. Like, Vince is doing this. Taylor's doing this. It's like, when you get into that mode, you're going to be unhappy and stressed. At least I know I am. So when you're in the game, you're focusing on those wins that you achieve, not anybody else.
Can I put a conflicting thought on that?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Is that what the panel's for?
Let's do it.
I like the gap. I like comparing to others. I like feeling less than because it motivates the shit out of me. I don't celebrate wins very often. I celebrate wins for my team, but like when I hit something, same as Taeler, it's like I don't want to celebrate it because I've already started looking at the next thing. And like I'll never say, hey, we've done this, because I don't care about that. By the time I hit that, I'm already somewhere else in my mind. And like it keeps me on this like perpetual wheel of like I just need to keep winning. So like I don't know, maybe my brain's weird. It is, because I don't like the celebration. I like the let's just like sit here in the trenches and do the work, and then I never feel like we're doing enough. And that's like what keeps my mind going. It's odd, but it works really well.
I understand it. I really do. I'm wired that way too.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this: have you tried the other way, and have you found out which way are you happier in?
Yeah. So I've tried to like slow myself down, and I find myself less happy in all areas of life. Like I've tried to quit
Not
weightlifting.
slowing down. I'm not saying slowing down. No, I'm not about that. But I'm saying
Like the get in and celebrate. Like get in.
yeah, like hey, like I actually fucking did this in the last 12 months. Like actually like appreciating what you accomplished. I'm all for hitting a goal. Okay, what's the next one? But have you ever stopped, slow down, and be like, shit, we just did that? Like, let's go celebrate with the team or do something like that to celebrate the victory.
I've done it with past businesses. It always just like, I felt like it stopped me. I felt like it stopped my mind from like pushing, because I would like feel good. And it's like I crossed the finish line, and then like it would kill the momentum, and then I'd have to get it up and going again.
Okay. So you operate better looking at what other people are doing. I'm going to go after them. And that works for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I have
Respect.
a guy on my team that like operates out of pure anger for other people. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Respect.
It's
I think
awesome.
it could go either way and be beneficial.
I'm not saying my way is good at all either.
Seems healthy.
So I think this highlights a really great point that we all are individuals, and these are similar. There's a lot of overlap, right? But I think people in this room could resonate with Dean, and then people in the room could resonate with Ben. And then there's also probably somewhere in the middle, or I'm not sure, right? And I think that where comparison becomes a problem is when we're comparing ourselves to people who we actually don't even want to be. So if you are comparing yourself to someone's life and you're like, I just like their end result, but you have no interest in doing the things that they do to get there, you're perpetually going to be unhappy. I think that comparison can be useful in the sense of, where are my inadequacies? Where can I bring myself up? How can I elevate myself, my team, et cetera, et cetera? But if you're constantly looking at people who are doing things that you really don't want to do, you're always going to be unhappy. And I think we could probably all have multiple areas in our life that we've done that or are currently doing that. So I think it just takes a little bit of reflection on everyone's end to say, how do I operate best? What am I looking at? And where, again, going back to what I said, who am I and what am I actually going after? And that'll be kind of find your own version of what they just shared.
You should drop your mic after
Can I add
that.
one little
Mic
thing?
drop.
I also, one thing that I work with a lot of people and I see a lot of accounts online, and this isn't like calling anybody out, but Santa Claus isn't always real. So you have to know what you're comparing yourself to, similar to what you just said.
I get it now.
Yeah, like you don't know if what you're seeing is actually what's even there. And I would encourage everybody to question everything. That's kind of what makes for great videos. But it's, you don't know what somebody's dealing with. You don't know what, how much of what it is even, do they even enjoy? Do they even like? And you just see, that perfect version or that million view video version of that person. And it's not always what you think it is.
Bring back fitness expos. No, but really, like that used to be like such a good equalizer for things, because then you could really interact with people or like really see people. And now the kids nowadays don't know. Like you just see like the Instagram photos or you see how people act, and it's like that can be a complete fabrication.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you need to get out on social media every day and like pour your deepest heart out and like tell everybody what's going on in your life, because like we also know that that's probably not appropriate, but there is a lot of in between there. So, and I've just seen it way too many times being in this space for so long that there are a lot of people who are very incongruent with their online personalities and their
Absolutely.
real personalities. So just always keep that in mind. Even though we all know that, we all have to kind of recenter ourselves with that sometimes, because even if you've seen it, we can all fall into that trap of forgetting
You mean you never cried to a ring light? That's not real?
Yeah. Trust me, no one else does that. I'm like an ugly crier. You know what? Yeah.
So next year this is going to be more of a fitness expo, and I'll have some RT0 in the back.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
really throw it back.
Oh my god, yeah. Like we
To
get like.
2015.
Do they still even make Bang, or did they get like?
No, they got that. Yeah,
they
yeah.
got.
You want one? I'll
yeah,
bring
yeah.
some for you.
Which is all like dance. Oh my god. Y'all.
Yeah, Quest bar's on. That's your gift next year, guys. Just a Quest bar, you know, on top of your card. So.
The Bang CEO seems so legit, though.
So much. I still sleep in like a Bang t-shirt when I go to bed because I got one at the Olympia years ago. All right, I'm gonna steer it back. So that question stemmed from just me thinking, I know you all very well, right? Obviously, these guys and Laurin maybe don't, but I know that all of you are motivated in different capacities, and I agree that comparing yourself to the right things, whatever, people, whatever, that can be motivating because I totally get that. And similar to Ben, I fell into a really challenging trap, I would say, my second year in business, where I didn't know how to celebrate anything, and I was just working sun up to sundown because I was avoiding things in my personal life I didn't want to deal with. And so you have to be careful with what you're doing because you can get stuck just checking off boxes and achieving, and not knowing why the hell you're doing it, right? You don't need to have everything figured out right now because I promise you, if I ask you what your vision is right now for the next 2 years, in 2 years from now, it's going to be totally different. That's okay. That's how you should be evolving. But understand right now, if something gets you a little off path, or if you take a little too long to celebrate, because sometimes, to your point, you reach a milestone that you've been pushing for so long, and then you start to let your foot off the gas a little bit. And then you, oh shit, 4 clients left. I don't know how to fill that gap anymore. And that can happen too. So figure out where you're at in that spectrum and try not to be on totally one side or the other, right? And that just takes time learning yourself and more time in business and repetition. Absolutely. So I'm gonna start with you for this one, but anyone can answer. So how do you stay committed to like your process and workflow when you're not seeing results? When the just fucking do it isn't getting you through it?
Yeah. So usually, like, it's a me problem, right? If I'm walking through my own process, doing everything I normally should be doing, and I'm talking in reference, like if I'm selling or training a team and it's just not getting me the result, like there's usually something going on in my personal life that might be stopping me. Something going on that I don't have control over or I just haven't identified yet. So when something like that happens, I try and change nothing, right? Because I know my process works. I know the individual I'm working with works. I know the team, the product, it's all the same. So I don't throw anything out. I change nothing. What I want to do is I want to bring the focus back internally and say, okay, where is it that I'm missing in life? Am I not showing up correctly? Like, have I changed something? Am I just missing a small tweak here or there? Because typically, like when I am doing the same thing, I'm getting the result. And if I'm not, it's a small tweak internally. So I keep the same individuals I'm talking to, things I'm meeting, things I'm doing outside of work, conversations I'm having. But I'll just run a quick internal audit and like, what is that thing that's missing? Like, what is actually happening? So like all that to say, like change nothing, but do a small internal audit to see like, have you started doing something different in your life? Are you starting to see things a little bit different? Have you started to take a shortcut somewhere? Right? Because most of us, if we're doing the same thing and we're missing, it's because we think we've gotten so good at the damn thing that we just don't follow everything A to Z. We're just like, I skip between B and D, and you realize that's the missing link. So all that to say, like, keep everything the same. Just look internally for that missing link. Where am I skipping? Where am I missing? Am I not sending the right amount of DMs? Am I not following up with people? Right? What is it, the little thing that I think doesn't matter that I'm missing? Kind of like relationships. You know, like you do everything right in the beginning and you feel like you still are, but you realize you don't bring her home flowers anymore. It's like the little thing that you don't realize that you're not doing anymore that actually means a fucking lot. That's going to move the needle forward in your business, sales, whatever it may be.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll add to that. I like what you shared there, by the way. There's 2 parts to it, at least for me. There's a seen world in terms of the results that you obviously see, but then there's an unseen world, right? It's what's happening on the inside. There's changes happening even if you're not actually seeing the results. The example is somebody who goes to lose weight and they're not necessarily seeing the weight loss on the scale, but their body's pulling fat from their liver, from their pancreas. There's an unseen world taking place, and I think when we are set on our hitting goals or on our way to hit goals, there's changes happening at a subconscious level and things that are really hard to explain but are unseen and amazing, number one. Number two, I look at my calendar. I don't know if you're like me, but I live by my calendar. Anybody else like that? Like whatever's on there, like that's what I'm going to do. And I'll look at it and I'll see what are the things that I'm doing that are not aligned with these goals I'm trying to hit. And I'll either remove it from my calendar or I'll find somebody to do it for me. And as long as I, focus on that, just like you said, keep doing those activities and stay consistent with those really important tasks, and those are the first things I do every single day, it's just a matter of time before those results come for me. So unseen world, looking at my calendar, and then rearranging that to focus on those high priority tasks is what I do.
Can you just restate the question one more time?
I got you. Test my memory.
I'm trying.
Thank you. It's all of the years at Hot Topic and the loud music. It really helped my memory.
It's crying.
How...
Emo kids
Get off the
cry.
stage. How do you stay committed to the process or workflow when you're not seeing results?
So I kind of live by a motto, and I don't know if it's technically healthy, and I can relate it to going out and partying. If you go out and you choose to have drinks and stay out late, you still have a job to do the next day, regardless of how you feel. So if I choose to go drink and be hungover, I still have to do my job, and I have to do it well. I can't use that as an excuse. So that's a choice that I made. I need to still perform and do my job the next day. And then also that kind of bleeds into how I've kind of, I've seen Luis do it in his life, and a lot of people that end up hanging around with me, I'm like, I just really don't make excuses. I'm like, well, this is my job. I don't feel like making videos, but it's my job to make videos. I don't feel like making other people videos. It's my job to make other people videos. And it would be the same as if I was a server at if I was a bar back. I got to clean the bar. I got to get people drinks. I got to do this. This is my job. I signed up for it. If you don't like it, quit. Go do something else. But also, too, in kind of reference to what you were saying, I found that sober problems become drunk fights. So if you suppress things and you don't have these conversations in a clear head and a clear mind, if things and drunk being chaos, let's say that they tend to become bigger, worse, bad problems. So work through your shit when you're sober, and it doesn't happen when you're drunk.
Solid. Drop the mic. But don't. Quick question. Don't do that, though. I have to pay for that. Lauren, I'm going to start with you. If I were to open your Spotify or Apple Music, if you use that, what's #1 song on rotation right now?
Bro, you don't even know.
I know
my shit is
how
so
you are,
weird.
but give me an artist you're loving.
Do you
right
guys
now.
have day list?
Yes, of course we have day lists.
Okay, well, I'm a little behind and stuff.
I
but
know.
Literally, one day mine said creamy doof doof afternoon.
That is.
So on brand. What is a creamy doof doof? But I'm that.
Do you want to hear how I described you earlier? Do
What?
you want to hear how I described you
No.
earlier? Okay. No, not a doof doof. I said, Lauren is like if a squirrel and a sloth combined. And isn't that you?
I appreciate that. That's nice.
Out of love.
Yeah.
That's so
Thank
you.
you.
The doof doof makes
But
sense.
creamy doof doof. But no, so I listen to a very wide variety of music, mostly a lot of electronic kind of stuff. There's this DJ, I think he's from the UK. His name's Aaron Hibble. He's kind of popular with some people, but not super popular. Check him out if you like very dramatic, trancey kind of music. So he's been on my heavy rotation. I think Aaron Hibble.
Nice. Right, you.
I listen to a lot of worship music.
Okay. Give me an artist.
We just throw on worship channels at home all day.
Okay.
So we usually throw on either Bethel Music, Brandon Lake, anything on Pandora,
Okay.
and we keep it
Pandora.
on the TV. Yeah, well,
So
because
you got ads on that?
it does. Yeah, we have it on the TV. We don't let my son watch TV, so Pandora has just a screen that stays. So we have it on pretty much all day.
Okay.
My son enjoys it, but that's pretty much what's on all day.
Okay.
But when at the gym, it's a little bit different.
Well, what's that? Yeah.
It goes between some maybe EDM, rap. If it's warmer out country,
If
I
it's
listen to
warmer
music
out.
based
I get
on
that.
how it is outside.
Yeah.
Like if it's cold and rainy, like I kind of want to hurt somebody, so I want some like intense music. And if it's nice outside and I want to be at the beach, like maybe some country. My
Yeah.
music vibe is 100% based on the weather. And like
Even at the gym. Wow.
even at the
okay.
gym,
Yeah,
absolutely,
okay.
absolutely.
I recently had a day list. I don't remember what day it was, but it was like gloomy Ohio math course Sunday, and I'm like, sure, that
Yeah.
sounds like me.
Sounds like.
Yeah, nice, hell yeah. I'm gonna pass on this one. Give me your.
Whoa,
I
whoa,
would
whoa,
guess
whoa, whoa, whoa,
My
whoa.
Chemical Romance, I would say for you.
I love you.
Do
I
you
love
have your phone
Um,
here? Let's go to recently
that's-
played.
We're not gonna do that.
What the F are you listening to?
We're not gonna.
What
do
is a
that.
day list?
Day list. Oh, it's so cool.
So listen,
I don't
I'll
know,
open
I
my
don't
day.
know.
Oh, let me open my day list right now. Let
Am
me
I the
just
only one
see.
that doesn't know what a day list
I
is?
don't know what it is.
So
either.
okay.
Oh.
Am I that old?
Put this down there, please.
The plot in you.
No.
Okay, so listen. When you go to day list, well, I don't want to listen to single. So you go
Where's
to day
day
list.
list?
I need to ignore those two in the front row. When I click on day list, ooh, it is stealth punkish Friday afternoon. You listen to angst and emo on Fridays in the afternoon. Here's some punkish stealth teen angst. Yeah, that's me. Anyway,
How do I do mine?
here, type here, search,
Search day
and then
list.
type day list.
Day list?
Wow, this took a turn.
Oh, there you go, right there. Day list. Your Father's Day Easy Country, Friday afternoon.
I don't even like any of those songs. That's like one album I have.
Did you listen to it a lot? Because that happens to me.
Yeah, it's basically.
Yeah.
Or I just
Well, it was
listened
a
to
new
one
album.
album and it's just,
Spotify puts
that's
together.
For
aggressive.
those wondering,
Different
it's the
times
Twister
days.
soundtrack.
Like it'll be like evening.
All right,
It's like,
all right.
Right at
Fucking-
was Tuesday night. I'm like,
Yeah.
All right.
My phone's over there.
I'm gonna
so-
reel it back in. Because when I listen to this podcast, I'm now gonna remember this moment and.
I just
be
don't feel like
sad
this
that
is a
I
good
did
representation of what I listen
Mine
to.
is
but-
It'll
aggressive.
change with
So
the time though. So like morning, evening.
I was gonna
night.
say Beartooth. Just saying.
nice. Remember that one time on a podcast I said something about grayscale and you're like, oh yeah, and I was like, wait, you know them?
Yeah.
That's really when I realized we could be. It was a moment. I had a moment.
I do have an
really-
affinity for
I
country
really
songs.
had a moment. Sam
Like-
knows. Okay.
But only country if it's EDM remix. Somebody has a missing kid.
Not enough. Oh no.
Everybody's like, fuck that. It's
It
like,
wasn't. Wait, hold on. Hey, you
I don't
got
have-
some. You got some light blue state champs. That's some new state champs.
Yeah.
I really love that for you.
the new
Okay.
Lincoln Park. I mean, I don't know if people
Got
love
some
or hate
Cruella
that.
in there. Okay.
Lincoln Park.
Yeah.
All right.
What?
Anyway, I'm gonna keep moving.
Well, I said it yesterday, the Killers. I mean,
Okay.
The
Sorry.
greatest rock band in the history of this world.
They are
it good?
Listen,
Not
Mr.
good.
Brightside's
no,
a
I'm like,
bot.
sorry, nobody's replacing Chester.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's a girl now.
Let
It's
me get up
okay.
there.
Okay.
Let me-
So here's
I
what
would
I'm
argue
gonna
it's
wrap
pretty
with.
good.
What's happening? The Killers. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I'm gonna ask one final question, and then I'm gonna have two of you guys ask anything you'd like, but you will need the microphone, so I'm gonna have you walk up here awkwardly and grab this microphone from me. But I would love to know, in the last 30 days, okay, 30 days, think about the month of September, because I know we all have mentors and a lot of great people in our corners. I know, you can
Like, what
remember,
month- I'm like,
right?
what month is
yeah,
it?
okay. It's Friday, by the way. Yeah.
Squirrel.
Sloth squirrel. Precious. All right. I don't know what I'm going to get you, but something. Anyway, what is like the best piece of advice or something that really stuck that you've heard in the last 30 days? Maybe it's something you've implemented, something new you tried, something a mentor said to you, just something
Ooh,
that's
yeah.
really been helpful recently.
Yeah. So this is specific to school, but I think we can apply this to anything. And we went to my orientation, and I had been in school 10 years ago with Dr. Campbell's program, and I was in a very different field, like exercise science. Everybody works out, like it's all just like casual, right? With counseling, it's like this is like they call it a professional degree, right? Because you're expected to become a professional within just a few years of this. And so they said, they're like, school is work. How you show up, how you look, how you represent yourself. And that seems like, oh yeah, that's not like groundbreaking, but just like hearing it in that way, I was like, oh yeah, school is work. And it's made me take everything else more seriously, which like, obviously like work is work and I get that, but like showing up with like, okay, like I'm going to like plan out like my day more effectively. I'm going to like down to like, I know this sounds so silly, but girls, y'all get this. What am I going to wear today? I don't know. Think about it for 20 minutes and it's stupid because I'm just putting on the same pair of, like getting things out ahead of time and like, okay, let me make sure that I'm really taking care of myself and like showing up in this way that like all of this like matters. So it's really just kind of like that intentionality behind like the little things that we do that sometimes like when we're really busy, we can kind of like let slide. Like, all right, let me just answer all these emails in my PJs. I'm like, hey, sometimes it'll just be happening. Like, it happens. but just like showing up for yourself then allows you to show up in all the other areas, I feel like, more effectively. So that's been helpful for me.
Oh,
Are we going down the line, or how are we
I thought
doing
were going
this?
Yeah,
down
go
the
ahead.
line, yeah.
So something I learned, and then I'll give you kind of the overarching thought. Something I learned is we're starting to get into a bit enterprise, like a bit enterprise sales, which is really cool. And the guy I'm paying to mentor me taught me a different strategy with how to get inside of enterprise clients. Instead of going after them, go after the people that help them, right? Because basically marketing agencies, whatnot, like people are always like, hey, these leads suck, but they're not actually doing it. So being able to offer a solution inside of there, instead of having to go to the big clients, go to the people who are paying them that don't want to have their contract cut. So that was the really cool thing I've learned. But the big overarching like theme that I come back to over the past 30 days is it's supposed to be hard. Like it's supposed to be hard. Everything we're doing is hard. And I remind myself that on a consistent basis, like when the day sucks or like we get kicked in the teeth, which is often, I'm like, oh, it's supposed to be this way. And if everyone can handle it, like everyone would do it. And they don't, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to handle it.
I guess I'm very fortunate that I get to film videos with a lot of the smartest people and considerably in the world, you would say. And Grant Cardone told me it's okay if my car can only go 3 million miles. And I don't necessarily, I'm still kind of processing that. And it was more or less the lesson I'm learning is it's okay that if it hits a certain point. It doesn't necessarily mean that this one thing is bad. It's just like that might just be a point. And then it's like how you choose to move forward from that point is kind of, I still don't have an answer for that, but it was kind of refreshing to be like, it's okay. Maybe this is just made to go this far. And then you can move forward to turn this into something else. And he said, and he was very clear, he said, it doesn't mean that you need to kill this in any way, shape, or form. Because I think that I don't want people to get that twisted. It's just that, hey, sometimes, and I've done this multiple times in my life when it came to BMX racing, it's like, it's okay to stop and do something else. While that's scary, yes, and people might be affected by your decisions, it's not that it's a bad thing.
I was at Patrick Bet-David's conference. Anybody know Patrick Bet-David? Anybody? Wow. Okay. A couple of you. He's amazing. Valuetainment in his company. I highly recommend him. Anyways, the question was last 30 days, so it made me think about the event. The word is outlast. I learned, I'll give you a perfect example. 6,000 people at this conference. It was in West Palm Beach. And towards like the end of the second day, a group of people, general admission, start walking out towards the end. And Patrick looks at that and stops everything and says, you guys are walking out in the middle. We're not done here. He's like, don't even come back to the conference. I will refund you your money back. It's like, if you don't outlast anybody, this is how you're going to do this is what you're going to do in your business. If you're not here until the end, this is how you're going to operate every single day. If you want to win, you're already going to be ahead of people just by showing up, just by outlasting. Now imagine all the strategies and the coaching and all the things you're getting here, but if you just show up like you are, obviously, and outlast people, sorry, my flashing.
I thought it was an effect. I liked it.
Yeah, it was part of the lecture here. If you just outlast them, so, for me, I just keep reminding myself, outlast. Like, I write it down, outlast, because if I can do that, like, just doing that puts you ahead of everybody else without any strategy. Combine the strategy and you're unstoppable.
That's good.
That was good. That was awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Add to the tattoos. Yeah.
Outlast tattoo?
They got,
Yes.
show them, they got all in. Are you surprised? They got
that
all
is
in.
Awesome.
On a first conference. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. I didn't know that.
If you didn't know, yeah.
I actually got served an ad for those T-shirts. Not with your face on them, by the way.
No.
Somebody else.
Quantel has a microphone. Let's have one person ask a question. Did you have something, Angie?
What did you say? There were no restrictions to the questions?
No. Heather, go ahead.
Make it good, no restrictions. Her Spotify playlist.
So often I will leave a conference like this where it's total action, you fill in place, and it's sometimes hard to get your thoughts organized and really take action based off of the things. So some things I've picked up is maybe not try to take away everything, but maybe 5 key points and capitalize on that. But what do you think is the most valuable steps in preparing to go back into your home environment? And in my case, I'm not surrounded with anyone. That's one thing is like environment. So this is so refreshing. And But just really preparing yourself mentally, but also just practically. Like, what are some things where you want to take action right away? You don't want to just like go and try to implement everything because you want to get there. But what would be some advice that you would give to just kind of organize those thoughts and implement them as fast as possible?
Can I go there? Yeah. This might be different than what you expect me to say, but I would say your self-image. I would say it isn't until your self-image changes that everything that you have in terms of strategy is going to work for you or work long enough for it to actually make a difference for you. When we, and I could talk for myself, have a self-image that we are not successful or not supposed to have this, then it's like coming out of a grocery store with your shopping cart. You have your destination, and then you know how it locks on you. It's like we keep doing that to ourselves when our self-image doesn't align with those new goals. And that's all in the subconscious mind. I spoke a little bit about it yesterday. I know Laurin knows a lot about this. And there's only two ways to change the paradigm. The paradigm are those habits in your subconscious mind. There's only two ways. The first way is an emotional impact. You go through some shit in your life, like me losing my dad, diabetes, the emotional impacts for me. The second way, which is the better way, is the repetition of that new idea, right? So I just mentioned that goal card. I'm so happy and grateful now that XYZ, like you write down the person you want to be, how you want to live, and you repeat that to yourself. You get into this meditative state and you visualize that. Like every morning I'm looking at a vision board and I have photoshopped me being interviewed by Joe Rogan, me being on these big podcasts, speaking in front of 30,000 people, and I'm there in front of it because I'm taking that idea from a conscious level to a subconscious level, changing my self-image so I don't sabotage or stop myself when I start to stretch. So for me it would be that. Like it isn't until you change that self-image, then you won't sabotage yourself anymore. You'll continue to go with your progress, and then when you implement these things, you won't stop yourself. You'll do it. You'll feel like you're worthy of getting these goals.
Can I ask you a question? What are you needing the most help with right now? Marketing? Okay. Whatever Will said, just look at his stuff on the plane home. Because you're getting a lot of shit. If you don't need help with the stuff up here, like what is the one thing that I need help with? Like that's probably what I should go back and look at notes about. And then instead of waiting until you get home, like there's a flight home, like spend time organizing it there. So when you do get home, you can go implement and say, hey, here are the 3 things I learned from Will that are solving the initial problem I had. I'm very process oriented. I hope that helps.
I'm not, but I'll give a bigger opposite way of thinking. I know you mentioned, just kind of pulling out, you mentioned like not really having the support around you maybe. I don't know if that's family or friends or just kind of maybe area you live in or all of them. But really try to imagine how you can maybe start to accept parts of that a little bit better. And I know that maybe sounds like I'm trying to be confrontational, but I'm not, because sometimes we want other people to change and they're just not going to, and we can't get them to, and maybe they will in 5 years or 10 years, but maybe they're not going to right now. And us always constantly wanting and hoping and wishing that they will change just keeps us in a stuck place. So really recognizing like, all right, what are some areas that these people in my life can support me in? This might not be one of them. And let me lean on them in these other areas, but this is my thing, and let me find my other community to lean on them when I can't have, people closest to me. Yeah, you have your community right here. Yeah, you have your community. So.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's very different. I think we can all agree. Like it's so exciting. So you think you're gonna go home and implement it all? Like, it's like, oh yeah, I get this. It resonates, and I'm gonna go fire it up. And then you get home, and the environment. It's more of a negative culture. It's not necessarily like my people have really accepted that. Yeah, they're not. That's been the case for a lot of the time. But it's just the environment. Like, I'm going home to everybody's been devastated with a hurricane. Yeah. So it's very sensitive. It's like I've got to take this energy and not let it just bring me down to that level and just really stay here.
Awesome. All right, we're gonna wrap this one, but thank you guys so much for hanging out up here and sharing all the knowledge bombs.
Thank you.
Thank you.